Hi, Simone. It's great to be here to discuss engagement analytics with you today, and especially be able to do this in person. I know since the platform launched, I've seen it evolve, and I'm interested to understand how engagement analytics can help investor relations teams become more effective in their outreach with investors. I know we've talked about the ability to integrate it into pre-earnings, post-earnings, and targeting workflows, and I feel that that's going to be really valuable to investor relations teams. Can we look at some of the features of the capability and review those now?
Absolutely, and thanks, John. It's a pleasure being here with you today. This is a really interesting topic, and I'm excited to dig into just some of the ways in which engagement analytics can help teams with their efforts. Let me start with a quick overview of what engagement analytics, or EA, is. This application places a spotlight onto behavioral data like page views, content downloads, event registrations from an IR website and events such as earnings, and connects it back to the institutions that are driving those engagements. Ownership and stock performance data is then overlaid onto these analytics to provide IR teams with a more holistic picture of who is engaging with their content earlier in their research journey. So with engagement analytics, IR teams can get a more complete picture of who is resonating with their content and what it is specifically that they're interested in. So let's say I'm an IRO at a publicly listed company. When I come to engagement analytics, I can see right away the list of institutions that are engaging the most with my content, any activist behavior that's been occurring, and I can also choose to monitor institutions that pique my interest. As I scroll down the page, I can see a chart that gives me an overview of my communication outreach. So over here, I can see my stock performance data, overall page views, press releases, and events. With this single graphic, I can keep my finger on the pulse of my IR program by seeing when my press releases went out, how the street reacted, and potentially even signals for what I want to do differently.
This is really interesting to see how much information is available to an IR team on this homepage. I think about the ability to understand who's attending the events that the IR teams might be hosting, which target investors are engaging with their site, and what documents they're looking at. Can engagement analytics help us understand the answers to those questions?
Absolutely. One of my favorite features of this application is the ability to view the historical engagement of an institution. Not only does this help me as an IRO prepare for one-on-one meetings with that investor, but it also helps me prepare for earnings. So let's dig into an example. On JP Morgan's profile page, I can see an overview of their current ownership position in my company, their engagements, and also a list of contacts that I would potentially want to reach out to. There's an ownership chart that shows me how this institution's positions in my company have changed quarter over quarter. So this is represented by these two green bars on screen, and this is presented in the context of the stock performance, page views, press releases, and events. All of this data combined gives me a whole holistic picture of their engagement, and also acts as a perfect complement to the outreach strategies I already have in play with my CRM.
I can see how this would be very helpful, particularly if we can share this information across the team. Say, for instance, that's supporting one of our Elevate clients. A surveillance analyst could merge this data with the information they're seeing in the DTC settlement information and use that to identify new or changing investors that are interested in hearing their story.
Absolutely, and you can imagine how rich and meaningful this data becomes when paired with surveillance. But let's go back into the earnings context. As an IRO preparing for my upcoming earnings event, I'm interested in understanding whether or not members of this institution have registered for my event and what else they're interested in. So from this page, engagement analytics allows me to see within a certain time frame what content it is that these members of the institution are clicking on, what they're downloading, as well as what events they've registered for. All of this together helps me prepare myself and my leadership to better anticipate questions and commentary based on this engagement data.
Oh, I can clearly see this would be useful for an investor relations team in their earnings prep. It's helpful for them to know newly engaged investors as well. Are we able to identify some of those?
Yes, absolutely. So let's say my earnings event occurred last week. When I change the time range to the last 7 days, what that does is refresh this content to pull back data related to that time range. And right away, I can see there's an institution that wasn't on the list previously. It looks like they don't have any ownership in my company just yet, but they have increased their engagement significantly since the previous week. This is just one of the ways in which engagement analytics helps me identify newly engaged investors or institutions of interest.
This is really excellent. I can see how this provides a great capability for investor relations teams in their post-earnings follow-up. If you can identify a newly engaged investor who's interested in hearing more about the company's story, it opens the door for them to do direct outreach, particularly knowing that that investor is already interested and expressed interest in hearing more about the company. This is, a direct link to targeting. It sounds like, and I think you've shown me the ability to follow investors. Can we take a look at that?
Yes, absolutely. So let's say I have a list of institutions I'm interested in, and this could be because they're amongst my top shareholders, or I'm interested in initiating a relationship with them. What I can do is choose to monitor them. And what that does is pin this institution to the top of the dashboard so that every time I come back to this screen, they're up front and center, and I can very quickly and easily see how their activities have changed. Now you can imagine that this is a really great output of targeting. If you've got a list of institutions you're interested in, you can come in and choose to monitor them all and stay on top of their activities that way. But it's also a really great input into targeting. You can identify new institutions of interest right here in Engagement Analytics, and then add that to your targeting outreach.
Well, thank you. This is just excellent, and I'm really excited to continue to share this with these capabilities with our clients.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure to be able to show you some of this, and I hope we can continue to have this conversation as we expand the world of EA.
Oh, definitely. And we're always on the lookout for emerging best practices in investor relations, and who knows, the next hot trend might be to start your day in EA.